Let's talk about the Democrats' overseas selfie tour in Germany, aka the unofficial kickoff for 2028. AOC and greasy gaffes were strutting around like they were global power players, but ended up looking like interns on their first day. Now, President Trump's blasting both of them for making America look bad overseas.
I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent, and at least Hillary's competent.
Well, that's a compliment. The socialist rep not happy with how her word linguini turned her into a global laughingstock. She told the New York Times, quote, "Everyone's got this story wrong, that this is about me running for president. To me, my opponents are the network that links Orban, Trump, Milei, Bolsonaro, and all of these folks." Well, I'm pretty sure we got the story right. She's a total foreign policy nincompoop. The socialists racked up these gaffes. Watch.
My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but...
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that. It is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator.
The nation of Venezuela, where Maduro used to live. So, Dana, what were Democrats hoping that AOC would deliver in this overseas trip?
I don't think anybody really was like itching for her to go. She chose to go to the Munich Security Conference. That is not the Munich Affordability in the United States conference that's being held in Munich. I also think it's hilarious that when Democrats run into a stumble, they can just call up the New York Times and get a that's okay, you're okay type of article written about it. But she has that kind of power. But the interesting thing is, she's like a lot like Kamala Harris. So if Kamala Harris had a flub, she would say, all I want to do is talk about injustice and inequality. And then she would be asked a question that she couldn't answer. She would flub the answer. And then you were a racist and a sexist because you noticed. So it wasn't just Fox News who was talking about AOC. Everybody was talking about AOC. She was talking about AOC in the lead up to it. Gretchen Whitmer wasn't much better. I just think that for all of them, it's like, why are you going there? She says she went there to warn about the far right, right? But she didn't even bother to have basic answers about Chinese aggression, the basic history of Mexico, which I think Greg's going to touch on, or where Venezuela is on a map. So she went there to warn about the right, and instead she ended up defending the communists in China and Maduro and Venezuela. Bravo.
And,
bravo, I should say.
Bravo, bravissimo. So, Greg, here she is on the global stage, hoping to just check a box and to seem presidential, being around people from different countries with different agendas. And somehow the talking points that have gotten her this far would take her over that one finish line.
She's claimed that she had prepped for months, which makes me think she doesn't know what the word prepped means. Because I think unless it meant pounding your head into a wall until your brain matter was like stovetop stuffing, I don't know. I do, the way she mocked J.D. Vance, that, the idea that American cowboys came from Spain, that was so stupid. She's wrong. They were brought there, like, I don't know, in the 15th century by some guy. Get this. Do you know what his name is? Cortez. She's a direct descendant of the guy that brought the horses to Mexico and then to America. So weirdly enough, it was Cortez who brought the horses and then later gave us an ass. Anyway, I think the Democrats are blessed with the binary filter of being within our border, where Democrats and Republicans are kind of seen as intellectual equivalents because there are two parties. But once you step outside the country, that equality evaporates, on contact. It's like two guys playing Call of Duty. Then they both go to war, but only one has real combat and experience and skills. that's when that's what happens to the Dems when they leave the House and they venture outside and you see that they know nothing. And it's like on cable news, you could see AOC and Gav can raise themselves up by sparring online with Trump. And you might think they're in the ballpark, but they're not even in the same country. And I think the mistake, since Obama was focusing on identity but not national. In fact, it was the opposite of national identity. It was splintered factions and causes, whether it was trans, illegal rights, felon justice, kind of activist-driven climate, pronouns, land acknowledgement. So the Dems took this short-term virtue signal and let everything else go to pot. So they became almost like the children in Lord of the Flies. They just start going after each other. And Republicans, just by default, look like adults, even if you disagree with them, and they have to return to the island to establish order, and the children hate it. But the problem with this identity politics is you only focus inward and not outward. They look like children because they are.
And it wasn't just Fox News that, to Dana's point, that took notice of this. CNN was also kind of raking AOC over the coals. But you have AOC and Gavin Newsom who go over and pretty much face plant. Either their foreign policy chops are very thin, in her case, or incredibly outdated in Gavin Newsom's case when he's talking about doing wind deals with the UK. But contrast that with Marco Rubio. How was he received?
I mean, he hit it out of the park. He found a way to make MAGA foreign policy likable. And that's a hard thing to do when you're going into someone else's house. I'll say this, the Democrats have a training wheels problem. They have a press that always guides them along the way. Any mistake, they're there to catch them. Even in her demise of this terrible performance, what was that? The New York Times was right there and essentially coached her through that interview and was there to defend her. I think we also give the foreign policy, crowd too much credit. At its core, when it comes to foreign policy and many of the issues, there is a problem that we all know, and there's about 3 different solutions. You choose a lane on which solution that you agree with, and then you understand why you came to that decision. The problem with this, I guess, her generation of politics is the reason why you separate her from Hillary Clinton and the president gave Hillary Clinton, because she came from an age where women actually had to work hard, that there was not gonna be training wheels it's different in the Democratic Party right now. What she did in her prep was rehearse. She didn't learn. And there's a difference from regurgitation and learning the lines and then learning the material. She didn't learn the material, and that's why she paused. Everyone knows it. She's pausing to figure out, what did they teach me? What did they tell me? And she wasn't ready for prime time.
Yeah, it reminded me of her sit down with Margaret Hoover on Firing Line. When she was pressed on Hamas. She's like, I'm not really a foreign policy expert.
Yeah, we know.
So here you have the Democrats who were very critical of President Trump for focusing too much on foreign policy. He shifts to a domestic agenda, and now they're all overseas trying to grasp at straws with their own foreign vision. But, I don't know what the Democrat Party showed in this conference.
Well, first, it's good to be with you. On a tough day with Reverend Jackson passing, this was not a good day for those that went. They're not representative of the Democratic Party. I think what we saw, large part, I saw Lawrence earlier today as well, talking about this. She wasn't prepared for the answer. She didn't have a set of answers. I don't know why. You go to a security conference, presumably to talk about foreign policy and geopolitical issues, and you don't perhaps lead with, I believe that President Trump, who promised that we would end the Ukraine-Russian war, even if you just, the easy stuff is right there. Greenland, we don't have a resolution there. Some of the president's policies are driving countries to believing that they have to have nuclear weapons. I think we need to have a world with fewer nuclear weapons. Whether you agree with it or not, at least it's so coherent, understandable. I didn't understand her answer on China and Taiwan.
Nor did she.
And I hope that people, hope nobody in China and Taiwan were watching it either. Here you have a president who I think is trying his hardest to reassert America's role in the Southern Hemisphere. If I were her, I'd have been talking about, I think he's doing it the wrong way. We need an economic not an economic security, but a national security plan that maybe resembles NATO in South America and North America if we want to keep China and Russia out. Again, I just think you got to be more thoughtful about these things. You got to be more serious. And frankly, I didn't think the Democrats there. I think people like, we have a number of Democrats in our party who are very smart, like Mark Warner and Jack Reed and others who are thoughtful on these issues. I thought we did not put our best foot forward. And frankly, it happened on 2 or 3 different occasions. I think Governor Whitman, who I'm a big fan of, I didn't think that she was as well prepared as she could have been either.
I mean,
nor was Governor Newsom.
Who else are you supposed to send there? That's all the feet you have.
Well, the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner from Virginia,
is he running for president?
No, but these, I hope all these people are not running for president on the Democrat side that were there. I think a lot of them are interested in it.
I hate to spoil the mystery.
Well, but whether they are or not, they have a lot of work to do. And I think that's the larger point you're trying to make. And
you're just waiting. You're just biding your time, Harold. Just biding your time.
That's right.
My colonizer.
Harold Ford Jr., 2028.
Yes.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.